Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out with the Sun boxing reporter Wally Downes Jr. The day after the night before, it was some shocking scenes that unfolded before our eyes, posted at Wembley Stadium in the main event. Anthony Joshua, the challenger against Daniel Dubois, the title holder. A lot were expecting Anthony Joshua to come up with the goods and reclaim for the third time the IBF heavyweight title, but it was Daniel Dubois who remained victorious and still heavyweight champion of the world. Wally, I'll let you take the floor. What did you see last night?
For me, the most shocking scene of fight week was seeing Seconds Out finally allowed back in. I wish it had been you, but I think it's important that good outlets like yours who do a good job are allowed in these things, and it's wrong when you're not. So that was a shock to see, but a good one. The best shock of the night, and I mean this, was Josh Padley winning. No disrespect to Mark Chamberlain whatsoever, but when a fella, that's a boxing story for me, man. Renovating his own house, so at the moment he lives with his grandmother. He said, I've arrived here with no promoter, no one's helped me, no one's asked me to do any interviews, and I've done nothing with anyone. Just had Steffi Ball and his team, Jason Cunningham. And I was in there for the first fight just about because of the security guards and the management of it all. And however many tickets he sold, it might have been 20, it might have been 100, all around different parts of Wembley. They were loud, mate, because it was 4 o'clock and it was essentially just Josh Padley fans. Like it was like he was the home fighter. It was incredible. And I had a horrible feeling that the board judges would stitch him up because they know that Mark Chamberlain's Turkey's favourite fighter, and they know that he's Frank Warren managed, and it would have been easy to give it a draw or to give it to Chamberlain. So the fact, don't get me wrong, we shouldn't have to heap credit on the board for doing their job properly, but we always criticise them badly when they do a poor scorecard. So yeah, seeing Josh Padley win was genuinely magnificent. That was a great shock. And then not really too many major shocks until the main event. I asked Ben Davison last night what really, it's as simply as I could put it, where I just asked, what was your game plan? And why wasn't it implemented? And Ben was great on some other stuff. One of the first things he said was, my gym and my team have got a lot of credit recently, so now we're ready for some blame and some comeback, which is good. But there was nothing tangible with what he was saying about trying to explain why AJ went out and boxed so tentatively, why his hands were low against the dangerous dude. I didn't hear it, but I was told that, when he was really in trouble, AJ, he's in trouble from last 20 seconds of the first round. He was calling for him to throw right uppercuts, and if you're throwing right uppercuts, you can't throw a punch that leaves you more open to a counter. So I wanted a little bit more clarity, because I think AJ even said in the ring, I've made mistakes and, I've got it wrong. It was a fair bit of waffle. I'm sure that Ben was never going to throw AJ under the bus. He said straight away, we deserve a lot of the blame. But yeah, I would like to know what the plan was. Did they want to take Dubois a few rounds? Did they want to move around, let him get and hope he gas it? I don't know. Or let the occasion. I don't know. But that's why I asked. And I come away absolutely none the wiser. So I don't know what happened. I remember seeing Dubois arrive because we was watching quite closely to see if Don Charles was with him.
Yeah.
And then I remember hearing the cheer for AJ arriving and thinking, just about, that's a long time difference. And it was only in the press conference afterwards where somebody asked Ben Davison, was AJ late on purpose? And he said, no, AJ did not arrive as early as we would like to or had planned to, because there was traffic. Now, I think that's absolutely appalling. that we cannot act like AJ's team. We always hear about the greatest team in the world. I see a lot of sunglasses and cigars. If your man isn't at Wembley Stadium early to prepare for that fight, you are not doing your job for him correctly. So I thought that hearing that afterwards, I thought was bad, but hopefully more comes out eventually. Again, the legend that AJ is, straight away, no excuses. I messed up. I made mistakes. I didn't do things right. And no one tells you the game plan before the fight, obviously, but I would just love a very simple, idiot-proof explanation of what our game plan was. But even then, I just thought, Dubois was. It reminded me of the tentative AJ who, when he came out against Usyk, and but then he had no range. He didn't land a jab for ages, and every little jab Dubois threw landed and was buzzing him. The first round, it was, there's so much was made of Don Charles's absence and the influence and power of Stan Dubois on his son. And even after completely dominating the first round, there was a moment, and I think I even caught it. I think it was exactly 16 seconds where AJ's back towards his own corner. And for some reason, Dan's got the angle's not right. He had to look backwards, and he looked backwards from the red corner to the blue corner, and everyone like that. And I had Chris McKenna from the Star next to me. I went, "Oh no, he's gone. It's the dad stuff again." Mm-hmm. And as he did that, looked back at his dad, he almost looked back, used the momentum, and like the guys in the gods in the 60 quid seats must have seen that right hand coming. I'm stunned that AJ was caught so flush with it, because then he was gone. I don't think he ever recovered. His legs were all over the place. It was Andy Ruiz all over again. Fair play to him. Two more knockdowns after that one. Getting up all the time. Landed a decent uppercut. And then suddenly in round 5, he looks like he's got Dubois cooked, and Dubois going. And you think Dubois is going to go. But that right hand is, again, there's a very good still. I'm not sure I don't think it's an actual photo. I think it's a grab someone's just taken. So it's not particularly clear. But when AJ is caught, his right hand, this is Pug for the Pug Gym, Don Charles, Ian Dewberry, Tony Pillman. His right hand is down here to throw, and his left hand is down here. I thought AJ would win based on recent performances, based on his experience, based on the technical boxing he was taught at GB, and that Ben had gone back to, and it was almost as if they rewound, 2 years and 3 fights, and they went back to that AJ who was caught. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a moron who thinks that he should walk out and box Daniel Dubois the same way he boxed Ngannou or Otto Wallin. But I have no idea what the plan was, and it would be interesting to find out, because they're not looking for excuses. AJ never has. But something has gone drastically wrong, from not being able to turn up to your fight on time. So I think he arrived at 9, and I think the ring walks were supposed to start at 9:50. So that's 50 minutes for your warm-up, for your preparation, to go and shake hands with, the important people who make the fights. I just think it was a massive mistake. And don't get me wrong, if he'd have won, who would have cared about turning up late? But if you have the worst start in modern memory to a fight of that magnitude, then to find out you turned up late for it rings alarm bells. But well done, Daniel Dubois, incredible.
Well, you said a lot there. I'll just pick up a couple of threads from your...
I get paid by the word from you.
From your opening salvo. That tentative tentativeness from Anthony Joshua. You're talking about wanting to get answers to give yourself an understanding as to why that was. What do you put it down to? Would you put it down to the game plan from Ben Davison, or is this a tentative fighter? A lot of people have been discussing in the build up to the fight as to where AJ was and the want to throw and the want to kind of get his man out of there. Although that did seem apparent in that fifth round where he seemed to kind of wake up. But is it the fighter or is it the trainer who kind of we look at here?
Both. They're a team. They have. Yeah, I'm not sort of desperate to know the game, but I'm not like, I deserve to know. I'm by no means a boxing genius. So I would just like to understand, for my own help, and so that when I talk about it and write about it, I understand. I don't want to get things wrong. I don't know if he walked out and everything was going perfectly fine, and that first Dubois jab, like I think Dave Allen has said, his jab is harder than most people's right hands, and Dave Allen has been in with everybody. I don't know if that completely changed AJ's plan and mindset. But funny enough, when I left my house, someone said to me, "What should I have a bet on?" AJ's odds are rubbish. I said, "Well, if Dubois is going to win, he'll only win by knockout, and if he wins by knockout, it's going to do it early." So I don't know if AJ's plan was to take him 3 or 4 rounds, be cute, box well, and make him tired. I have no idea, Ames. And yeah, but together, like Ben Davison said, my gym has taken loads of credit recently. We are ready for blame. But AJ's an experienced seasoned pro, and they would have gone in with a game plan together. I don't know what it is, don't know what it was, but it didn't work. Dubois was excellent. But if again, we don't see the corner work when you're ringside. As grateful as we always are to be at ringside, I have no idea. It takes a day or two, and then a lot of things get revealed. I know I did ask Ben Davison about AJ sticking his tongue out to him. That's something that he's done before, where when someone's buzzed, they do like, "Oh, I'm not hurt." But AJ goes the other way. He starts acting almost a bit childlike, a bit silly, sticking his tongue out. Seen that before, and he was doing that a fair bit. I think he walked Daniel back to his corner, end of the fourth, maybe.
He said,
"Sit down, old man." Yeah, that's him going and sticking his tongue out into Ben. I know he's trying to reassure him, like AJ's always trying to look after everyone around him. So yeah, I don't think he ever recovered from that first right hand. But it wasn't from Daniel Dubois. It wasn't a Hail Mary or a lucky shot. He was barring an uppercut and that dangerous moment. He was superb. I know it's boring to go on again. Jarrell Miller was in there the whole fight, hitting Daniel, and then he gassed. Filip Hrgovic was in there hitting Daniel constantly, and he was slashed. I don't think he was not knocked down, was he? I don't think. He just cut loads of cuts. And those guys hit Daniel loads, and he didn't knock them out. So I didn't think Daniel was going in there with the greatest form in the world. He had 2 excellent wins that rebuilt his confidence and reinforced belief in his capacity to mentally come through tough challenges. But I didn't. That doesn't make him technically and physically suddenly capable of taking on that AJ. That AJ that we thought was back. So I'm really baffled by it. I mean, fair play. There's a fair few people like yourself who now claim that you knew it all along. God knows why you're still doing these videos with all the money you must make betting on fights. So yeah, I was stunned. I got it completely wrong. I thought not having Don around would be a problem. I thought I didn't think that the enormity of the arena and the stadium and stuff, because I think Dan, I did hear him being referred to as like the most laid back man in the world. He's almost sort of otherworldly sometimes. There was a moment on Thursday where AJ was talking to him and he completely zoned out. And then he went, "What? Sorry?" So I would imagine he walked to that ring, couldn't care less. I love that he come out in, essentially a Mike Tyson throwback, just a tail of a hole cut in. I do root for the underdog in every fight. I don't know why. I suppose when you're a little fat bald bloke like me, you always like an underdog. So I did, yeah. But I was stunned by it, and I still right now don't understand it. I don't know if, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened to the AJ that we'd just seen really re-emerge.
In the aftermath, of course, people will have their take, and the calls for AJ to retire will be strong as they ever have been from some corners of the boxing public. AJ has already said, "Look, I'm a warrior, I'm a gladiator. I'm going to continue. We'll just have to rebuild." And there's fights in the pipeline already for him pre last night's event in the form of the Fury fight in the future or a rematch with Daniel Dubois. How viable do you think are the three options there on the table, retirement, Dubois, and Fury?
Well, there is no rematch clause. So when Eddie Hearn said that's not true.
Hmm.
When he says there is a rematch clause, that isn't true. He has one more fight with Riyadh Season in his contract, in his current contract. That's very, very different. Tyson Fury said it ringside. Does it ruin your algorithm if I swear or something? He just cost me 150 million quid, that silly cunt.
Hmm.
So I believe that fight was all but done. Surely, obviously, probably not signed because Usyk still got a fight. But as long as AJ won and Fury wasn't humiliated and heavily injured, that fight was happening in the first quarter, let's say February, March of 2025. And then maybe, let's all fantasize that there'd be a Wembley rematch. I don't see how you either make that, but then Saudi are massively about optics and stuff, aren't they? They might not care, they might not want it. If Fury gets beat as well, I think the interest in that dwindles massively. And then the flip side is rebuilding AJ now from the level that he's been at and that he's part of. Who do you put him in with? The Joyce fight has got a great storyline because of their days on Team GB, him going sparring partners hundreds of rounds, AJ going ahead of him. Joyce should have been a gold medalist, got robbed, should have had the £1 million deal that AJ started his life with. Saudis love Joe Parker at the minute, but also now we know AJ does no media apart from Fight Week media. So it's not like when Fury suffers a loss and he's at every event and every show and he's explaining stuff, and some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't. He says so much stuff that it all just merges into one. Whereas with AJ, he fights twice a year, he speaks twice a year, you get him for 10 minutes. So we have to overanalyze every word that he says. And if he comes back next week against Joe Joyce or Dillian White or Joe Parker, all the build-up will be from every broadcaster, every YouTuber, every newspaper is, are you shot? Are you gun shy? What are you doing it for? There's no nice. If he somehow goes into the Fury fight, it's just fanfare and mania and, oh my God, this is the biggest thing in the world. If he comes back with something lesser, I think it's quite a miserable process. And I don't know. I know that, I'm a warrior. I love boxing, and I know he's in Finchley Gym, and I know he saved all the amateur gyms in lockdown. I know he adores the sport. But when you have the wealth that he's got, when you've got the legacy that he's got, the opportunities that he must have to do other things, I would vanish. And I know that to go out on that note last night is awful. It's like the anti-Froch. Like that is a Carl Froch punch at Wembley. That it is the anti that. Imagine, I'll credit Carl Froch now as having the greatest retirement ever. With Anthony, you can't define Anthony Joshua by that, but it's the last thing people will remember of Anthony Joshua. And if there was some 20-year-olds or 19-year-olds that were there last night, then their next 60 years of their life, that will be their abiding memory of AJ. So I really don't know, mate. So I don't know. I don't know what he's still doing it for. Being a 3-time world champion now, even if he gets near it, people will say it's just been orchestrated and bought. Yeah. How can I can't call for him to retire? The man, I wouldn't have a mortgage and a couple of kids if it wasn't for Anthony Joshua. But yeah, I think it's a tough road back for a man who doesn't need it. If I was him, I would go and enjoy my life because he has earned every single penny and carried us for absolutely ages. And he's still helping guys like Moses Talma, and he's still bringing kids through at Finchley all the time. He's an absolute legend, top man. I don't want him to retire or call for him to retire or demand that he retires. But I would love to see him go and retire and have fun with his kids and they do fun stuff.
Lastly, I want to switch and focus on to Daniel Dubois and, of course, Don Charles in his corner. There was a fog of confusion surrounding Don Charles's position in the corner with some rumors that he might have been displaced. He was displaced momentarily in the fight week events because of a head cold, which he'd recovered enough from to be in the corner on fight night. But the work that Don Charles has done alongside the emergence of Stan Dubois in the corner seems to be a recipe for success for Daniel Dubois. What do you attribute the success of Daniel's recent fights down to? The mix of the corner, Don Charles's influence in there, Daniel's mentality and growth? What is it that has given Daniel all this rise to prominence after there were questions about his mentality? There was questions about whether he really wanted it. He's proven that when people doubted him and said to him, you should get carried out of the ring, and he said, look, I want to live to fight another day. He fought another day last night, and it was his day on a greater occasion than the occasion where he chose not to fight.
Yeah, look, I think in British boxing, Daniel Dubois' dad remains quite a divisive figure. Most young amateurs have a gym that brings them through and that they represent. You can find pictures of Daniel Dubois in virtually every vest that this city has. I saw it but all the gyms that share the pictures because they're proud that he was there. But I've been seeing ones of him at Islington. I know he was at the Dale when Caroline was there. I'm sure he popped up at Repton and the Lynn, and by the sounds of it, he was always moved on and never allowed to settle. And I thought the Peacock Bowers family did great work with him. They tried to look after him. I get the impression they didn't want the Joyce fight. I think I remember speaking to them, and they believed he could win, of course, but it was in lockdown. I don't think the world was demanding that fight. We were incredibly grateful to get it. Then he went to Shane McGuigan and he showed improvements under Shane, and it was lovely that Caroline and him were in the same gym together, and in that didn't last very long. And then he's with Don Charles, and then reports come out, and I think Frank Warren confirmed it on his own Queensbury channel that there has been an ongoing argument over money. So you get the impression that Stanley Bob, whenever a parent is in a gym, like it's just the first thing you say, this is wrong. Most amateur gyms, your first day a kid goes in under 7, no parents are allowed in the gym. It all points to a disaster. But what they're pulling off is it lays waste to all the logic that I've just tried to portray to you. I asked Lennox Lewis, thanks to TNT. I asked Lennox Lewis, when is the influence that his dad has, is it a superpower or is it a massive kryptonite, a weakness? And Lennox, as usual, was so clever, and he just said, well, when it's positive, it is a superpower. And as soon as it is negative, it will be his kryptonite. So right now, the fact that he can turn around and look at his father and suddenly do that, it's incredible. It's freakish. And it was a wonderful, where I was panicking, I apologise to some readers, it was probably the worst fight report I've ever, it's such a wonderful fight, because I just lost track of what was going on. So I didn't, the minute it finished, I was just trying to type. So I didn't see too much in the ring at all after, but I did see in the backstage when he just hugged his dad. And I think we all the boxing journalists and writers that have been interviewing Dan for years now, I think there's a genuine sense of like care and concern and hope that he does well, because he's not loud and leery and flashy. He's incredibly quiet and introverted. And the only time I ever see him sort of smile is when I ask how Prince is doing or little Solomon is doing. So yeah, I think everybody cares about him, wants to do well, and if having his dad in his corner, if being able to look over and spot his dad brings that out in him, yeah, who are we to judge and what it's based on? It's marvelous. I'm sure there's loads of fighters who, sadly their dads aren't around. They can't look over there in the corner, and the minute he's got it, and it's doing incredible things for him. And Frank Warren, like with Don Charles not being around, I thought Kieran Farrell looked like he's got great rapport going with Dan. And every time I saw Daniel on the stage looking a bit lonely, like at the weigh-in, Frank was always there, always having a chat, always putting his hand on his arm and trying to make him laugh. So, yeah, right now, Dan and Stan Dubois are, the most fearsome twosome in boxing right now. Long may it continue. And then, if there is a problem, then it'll have to be looked at from the other angle. But right now, yeah, just enjoy it, man. It's wonderful. Another heavyweight British world champion. Superb.
Another big night in the history books. Wally, another Zoom interview in the history books. Thank you for speaking to Seconds Out. Looking forward to our next conversation already. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you for speaking to Seconds Out.
Massive shout out to Josh Warrington, if that's his last fight. That man's been an absolute hero to all of us. I hope it is like different to AJ. Like he's got everything to come back for. I can't see what Josh can give us anymore. I didn't see him lay the gloves down again, just head down typing. But he's a man of his convictions, and I think for him to have done that, he wasn't a concussive knockout puncher at feather. He's gone up. It's definitely not going to carry up. And Kakachi was huge and good, and Josh tried, but he's done enough. It's heartbreaking that Vegas fight has eluded him, because all he wanted to do is repay all those fans that did the Leeds arenas and the Doncaster dive bars. All he wanted is to take them guys to Vegas to be like Ricky Hatton. But he can go away remembering that he gave them Ellen Road and that he gave him Headingley. So yeah, I hope he retires, because he's done more than enough, and he's got so much more to offer. I know he's doing his own bit promoting now. Every broadcaster should be banging his door down. Every fighter should want him to train them and his dad to work with them and manage them and guide them. So, Christ, yeah, Jesus! Imagine if Josh Warrington and Anthony Joshua retire on the same night. What on earth? What am I going to do? Going to be down the dole tomorrow, mate. Joining you.
I'll get you a coffee. Much appreciated, Wally.
Love you, son.